Welcome and thank you for joining today's webinar hosted by Trustworthy, the creator of the Family Operating System, which keeps all of your family's important information secure, private, and accessible, whether you're at home or on the go. I'm Don Kirkpatrick, Trustworthy's head of content strategy, and I'm here today with Kyle Adamo, our head of product, and our special guest, Lucy Milligan Wahl. Lucy is a Trustworthy Certified Expert and a professional organizer with more than 11 years of experience working with busy professionals and their families. She's joining us today to talk about how to get organized, even when it might seem impossible for you to achieve that. Before we get started, I have a couple of quick announcements to make. First, we have two special deals for attendees at the end of today's webinar. One from Lucy's company, LMW Edits, and one from Trustworthy. So please stick around for those. Second, we encourage you to ask questions either for Lucy or about Trustworthy. We'll pause a couple of times during this webinar to answer your questions. So now I'm going to hand things off to Lucy, and I'll be back later to talk briefly about Trustworthy. So Lucy, why don't you take it away from here?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Don. Thank you, everyone, for being here on this lovely Wednesday morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. It's morning here for me in San Francisco. Like Don said, I'm Lucy Milligan Wahl. I own LMW Edits, which is a boutique professional organizing company. I help busy and successful people and their families create organizing systems that support them in every aspect of their lives. I've worked in all kinds of spaces, tiny studio apartments, multi-million-dollar mansions, but the thing that ties it all together is I tailor my systems and solutions specifically for my clients and their unique lifestyles. And I don't just organize physical spaces. Like Don said, I am a Trustworthy Certified Expert. That means I help people just like you implement their trustworthy operating system for their families, which is everything from advising on how to do it to physically scanning the stuff into Trustworthy. So I can do it all. So today, what I'm going to talk about is making 5 key mindset shifts to help develop the kind of organized approach that will help you live an organized life, even if you have previously considered yourself a disorganized person. Now, I could give you all the organizing tips, tricks, and hacks in the world, but if tips are all you need, frankly, you shouldn't be here. There's nothing new under the sun, and that's very much true of organizing. Every tip that works and many that super don't are all over the internet. The fact is that tips and tactics aren't enough to stay organized, because when you don't understand the assumptions that underlie those tactics, you're going to find it difficult to keep using them. You're not going to see fundamental change in your everyday life until you change the way you think about stuff and organizing in the first place. So you have to shift your entire mindset before you can get organized. I will preface this by saying that parts of this presentation might challenge you a little bit. Other parts might seem so intuitive. Why am I even talking about it? But I ask you to remember that what's intuitive for one person isn't necessarily intuitive for all, but you are going to need to challenge some of your current assumptions and act on things you find intuitive but may not have implemented before. So I would invite you to find at least one concept in this presentation that really strikes a chord with you and consider how accepting that concept can change your approach to organizing. So like I said, we're going to do 5 key mindset shifts that I've noticed get between my clients and the organized lives they want. These assumptions come from a lot of places, from families of origin, from popular culture, from social norms. What these assumptions share is that they steal your power to take action and achieve an organized life. So we need alternatives that will disrupt these assumptions and help you develop that organized mindset. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Okay, so I cannot tell you how many times a client has said a variation of this. You're just not an organized person. Does that sound familiar? So what's interesting here, I'm going to nerd out for a hot second. This is kind of a hangover from one of our biggest driving cultural forces, which is the Protestant work ethic. I know we're going way back to high school. For the Protestants who came and colonized this land, all of their earthly deeds reflected their personal character. They believed that if you were having difficulty in life, this wasn't because of broken systems or factors outside your control, but it was due to your core worth as a human. It's pretty harsh, right? So we're still this harsh on ourselves today. We still believe, and you might recognize this in yourself, we still believe that the state of our homes reflects our character and our personal worth. And if we believe that, it's pretty easy to believe that a person is either organized or they're not, and there's nothing we can do to change that. I'm here to tell you it's simply not true. Organizing is a skill. It's based on simple, straightforward principles. Now, it's true that people have varying preferences for how their organizing systems work, but there's an organized and disorganized version of every approach. So you can have a sort of maximalist aesthetic without it turning into clutter, and you can have very clean services that are hiding absolute chaos behind closed doors. So if we accept that organizing is a skill rather than a personality trait, what does that imply? That implies that no matter who you are, you have the power to get organized. If it's a skill, that means everyone has the ability to do it. Everyone can learn how, and everyone can get better over time with practice and effort. So it's easy to make excuses for ourselves for living with disorganization that's making us miserable if our assumption is that organizing is a personality trait we simply don't have. But if you do shift your mindset and realize that organizing is a skill, you now have the power, nay, even the responsibility to take action. So there's kind of two ways to frame this. If you are a person who's been beating yourself up for being a disorganized person, stop. You're worthy of an organized life and you're fully able to achieve it. Now, if you've been making excuses to yourself for allowing yourself to stay disorganized, also stop that as well. Those excuses are holding you back. You're fully capable of creating the organized life you really want. So that was assumption number one. Organizing is a skill, not a personality trait. When I'm working with my clients, I hear some variation of this all the time. I don't want to do that. It's so much work. And this usually happens when I'm trying to set up an organizing system for them and they're balking at the idea of having to do a specific task on a regular basis. So a little more nerdery for you here. Organizing depends on something that humans are not particularly good at, which is long-term gratification. We are much more likely to do things that give us immediate rewards rather than things that are going to pay off over time. So this is why it feels so much better in the moment to let that mail pile up on the kitchen counter, even though we know in the back of our minds that that means eventually we are going to have to sit down and deal with a giant, annoying pile of mail. And that is why, when you're not used to it, basic organizing can feel like a lot of work. Remember what we just talked about. Organizing is a skill you have to learn. And when you're learning any skill, everything feels difficult and overwhelming at first. So it's important to allow yourself an adjustment period to let this learning and skill acquisition take place rather than expecting you're going to be able to change all your behaviors easily with the snap of your fingers. It's the point of getting organized is to make your life easier. So even if it feels like more work at first, when your skills are raw, it will really make your life easier over time as your skills improve. So how does organizing make your life easier, you ask? My clients tell me that their priorities in life are the people they love, the experiences they enjoy, and the causes that move them. And yet, the way they spend their most precious resources tells an entirely different story. My clients spend the majority of their time dealing with stuff and information, buying it, looking for it, moving it around, making it, getting rid of it. They know they don't want to live that way. They know they have other priorities, but yet they're stuck. And so what being organized does is make your life easier by conserving your most precious resources for your real priorities. These are the resources no money can buy, and you can't really get them back necessarily once you've spent them. So what are those resources? Time, number one. Organizing systems make it easier for you to find things and complete tasks quickly and efficiently. Space. Every single one of my clients has told me that the problem is that they just don't have enough storage space. Now, remember, I work in million-dollar mansions, so it might not be the space. So organizing takes up less space, whether that's space in real life space or virtual space. An organized life also frees up energy, the energy you used to spend on trying to get things done in the midst of chaos. And finally, an organized life kind of saves your sanity. I see it all the time. An organized life reduces conflict within your household and within your personal relationships. The implication here is that if you really do want to prioritize those relationships, those experiences, those ideals that are valuable to you, and you accept that organizing makes life easier by saving the resources you need to prioritize those things, then you got to take action and get organized. So when I tell people I'm a professional organizer, they'll often say with a heavy sigh, I really need to get organized. Maybe when work settles down a little bit, maybe when the kids go back to school, maybe insert other major life event here. So this kind of response is predicated on the faulty assumption that organizing, it's a finite project. It's a huge overhaul. We do it all at once, and then we get the benefits of an organized life forever after. And we're kind of tricked into this by some of the popular media, especially those organizing TV shows where professional organizers work without the client present based on their own beliefs of what an organized home looks like and how it works. And those results can be visually stunning. I am not going to lie, guys. Everything is contained, labeled, sorted, color-coded. Clients return to the space. They see this jaw-dropping before and after, and they're thrilled. Ask them how long these systems last. The project is finished, but the clients have no idea how to use daily organizing habits to maintain the system. It quickly falls into disarray. And then the clients are going to blame themselves for just not being an organized person. So organized living is not a one-time project. It's a matter of implementing simple daily habits that maintain your systems. Without these habits, any organizing scheme, no matter how beautiful, will eventually fall into disarray. So it might seem scary to accept that you'll have to do some organizing every day of your life, especially if you used to identify as a disorganized person, which you don't anymore, right? Because we talked about that. However, when you do organizing tasks every day, you don't need that much time every day to stay organized. I tend to think about it as sort of a 30-minute total over the course of a day. So think about the number of minutes you're doing things that you don't necessarily love that you do, scrolling through social media. Surely you can spare a few of those minutes to make your life a little easier. And the best way that I have found to incorporate organizing tasks into your life is to make them part of your routine. There are a lot of ways to do this, but for my clients, I tend to group them into two categories. We have the time spent method and the daily standard method. The time spent method means that you block those 30 minutes every day for everyone in the household to tidy up. And when that 30 minutes is over, you're done. Doesn't matter if there's still like something left to do, you're done after 30 minutes. Because if you do this every day, eventually you get to a point where everything is done after 30 minutes. So that's the time spent method. The daily standard method means that as a household, you decide what tidy means for each area, assign who is responsible, and determine a time of day each day by which the area has to reach that standard. So you're kind of leaving it up to whoever's responsible, but they got to hit the standard by a certain time every day. And you probably already have a gut feeling about which is the right method for you and your home. So those are my two methods to make it a routine. So we make it a routine, but it also really helps if we start with a baseline of functional organizing systems. So you may need to do a more thorough organizing projects on areas that are pretty disorganized or cluttered, because perhaps in the context of trustworthy, paperwork and family information might be an area of concern for you. And this is where many people will hire a professional organizer or a trustworthy certified expert, because we are trained to give you that reset you need so that you can start fresh with your new approach to organized living. It is so much easier to maintain organized habits when you're starting from that organized baseline. So you've got that baseline, and then the idea of daily organizing habits is that you stay organized so you never have to get organized. So you're not going to be devoting like hours of your weekend to getting organized if you're staying organized every day. There's no one size fits all list of daily organizing habits that everyone needs. But I do have a one size fits all concept that will help everyone. And that is, when in doubt, do it now. This mantra is a major adjustment for many people, but it delivers huge results. It helps to understand the reason why you're probably already resisting this idea. Like if you're feeling a little rebel inside your head, we tend to overestimate how long it takes to do dreaded tasks. We mentally assume we need an hour to do something, and then it may only take 45 seconds once we get around to it. So if you're already rebelling against the do it now mantra, that may be happening. Another thing that may be happening is that if you're avoiding a certain task, it might be because you are not entirely sure how to complete it. So maybe you need help. Maybe you need advice. Maybe you're missing a piece of information. Maybe you don't know what the next step is. Instead of avoiding it, what you want to do is drill down into that resistance so you can uncover the blockage, fix it, get the task done, get it on with your life. The reason that getting organized can sound so overwhelming to people and gets put off until that mythical better time that never arrives is because the more stuff is allowed to pile up, the harder it is to actually get organized. So by implementing daily organizing habits and the do it now mindset, you prevent the pileup. We have a default assumption in this culture that the person occupying the wife or mom role in a household is in charge of homekeeping tasks. It is a very rare household where the person in the husband or dad role does more organizing than the person in the wife or mom role. It's not impossible, but it is quite rare. And this is nothing more than a hangover from social norms that are quickly becoming outdated. There's nothing about organizing that is female specific. In fact, I have seen clients who are stuck in the unfortunate trap of a person who's the dad or the husband who's great at organizing and craves order, and the person in the wife or mom role who doesn't really have such strong organizing skills, but somehow she's ended up with the responsibility for the tasks. You can imagine how that creates some conflict. So before you get defensive, please know this. Most of the time, this is all unconscious. Wonderful people who believe in equality and do everything they can do to be good partners fall into this trap all the time. I see it all the time. The fact is, current research shows that the burden of home organizing tasks still falls on the wife or mom, even when that person has an equally demanding or more demanding career than the person in the husband or dad role. That's how strong those social norms are. They guide our decisions without even realizing it. So, what does that imply? If organizing is for everyone, then that means everyone can organize, and that means everyone should organize. When everyone in a household participates in organization, you avoid a lot of really common family conflicts. Stop me if you've heard the cliche before that moms are total nags. Well, you'd be a nag too if you were responsible for keeping your home tidy and organized without the participation of your family members on top of your other job and family responsibilities. So when everyone pitches in, the work is shared, and you avoid the buildup of resentment when one person feels unfairly burdened. Stop me if you've heard this other cliche that dads are totally clueless. Well, you'd feel clueless too if you didn't have any control over your own stuff in the space you live in. When homekeeping tasks get relegated to one person, that person has control over the home to the exclusion of everyone else. When we share those organizing tasks, we allow each member of a household ownership over their own stuff and the spaces within the home they use the most. This ownership is hugely empowering and gives you a feeling of control over your own life. And when we're talking about the home, this is sort of the way it's set up. When we're talking about family information, this is often flipped. The dad's in charge of finances and filing, for example. So this can be flipped. But either way it's going, implementing true ownership is so powerful because there's two sides to the coin. First, the person who owns the stuff or the information gets complete control. No one gets to nag or bother them. No one gets to tell them what to do. But on the flip side, they are completely responsible. They don't get to blame someone else if they can't find something. They don't get to take over additional space that they don't own. So that is why I say everyone should participate in organizing, especially if you're in a couple. And of course, we want to include kids too. We want to set our kids up for success, so that they're contributing to the household and they'll be able to have their own organized home one day. And the only way to do that is to start from the very beginning. Remember, organizing is a skill. So just as you have to learn organizing skills, your kids have to learn them too. And you need to start teaching them as soon as possible. So I always tell parents it is very age appropriate to start teaching kids to do organizing from a very young age. We're talking 2 or 3 years old. Put away their toys, put their dirty clothes in the hamper, take their plates from the dinner table as soon as that's reliable and they won't break stuff. If you are unsure if a task is age appropriate for your child, ask their teacher. You might be surprised what they're asked to do at school that they are not doing for you at home. So you want to start teaching them, and you've got to let them do the things even if they're not doing it properly. So they need to learn. They're not going to suddenly turn 12 and know how to keep their room clean. You need to help them learn those skills over time. And you've got to model those skills that you want your kids to acquire yourself. So I'm seeing a lot of frustration from parents of teens who are frustrated with their kids' rooms, but the rest of the house isn't very organized either. So it's pretty unfair to expect a teen to achieve a standard you can't. We've all got to participate in staying organized. My clients often have a very specific picture of what organizing looks like. So I've had people make requests all the time. One client asked me for a Kardashian pantry, and another one wanted her closet to look like a department store. And that's great. If you have a solid vision of what you want, I can help you get there. But you can have a beautifully designed interior and still live disorganized with clutter everywhere, because we can't live without stuff that's not beautiful and display worthy. We're always going to need kitchen tools, office supplies, socks, batteries. And in order to use those things quickly and efficiently in a manner that doesn't, like we talked about, waste our most precious resources, we need organizing systems and storage. And that is why function comes first. You got to figure out what you own, how you use it, and where you need to use it before you can design that beautiful space that accommodates your stuff. In fact, it's actually easier to narrow down selection for things like furniture, closet build out, storage containers when you already know what kind of capacity you need. And that is why I love working on projects in tandem with architects and interior designers because my input can make their design more functional for the client and their input makes the space beautiful. So function comes first. So if function comes first, that implies that it's really important to design your home for your life specifically, not someone else's life, not the life you wish you had, not the life you imagine you'll have 10 years from now. I always tell my clients to be present in their space to make what they have today the best version it can be so they can enjoy their lives as much as possible right now. So in order to design a space that works for your life, you got to be realistic. Got to know yourself. Super important. I found that there are two types of people in this world. We've got out of sight, out of mind people, and we've got mental archive people. So out of sight, out of mind people tend to be very visual, and they need to be able to see everything in order to use it. They literally say, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. Mental archive people tend to be very cerebral. They need to keep everything hidden away in order to create calm and mental clarity. If you're not sure which one you are, and most people are pretty sure immediately, but if you're not sure which one you are, think about a part of your home that really works well for you and ask yourself, why does it work? Does it work because you can see everything, or does it work because everything is tucked out of sight? So you got to know yourself and which kind of person you are and create the space around that. Something that my clients really underestimate is the importance of leaving room to grow. In order to live in a space long-term without constantly needing to reorganize, you have to leave that room to grow. A lot of my clients try to tell themselves, I'm not going to buy anything more. I have everything I need. But the reality is new things will always come into your life, especially if you have kids. You know this one. And if you don't have any space to store those new things, any systems will disintegrate. So we got to leave that room to grow. And finally, I definitely talk with my clients about how less is more. I truly believe that. But when you're designing a space, it's also important to remember that less can be more luxurious. If you look at interiors you love, what they all have in common is that each object in the space is chosen intentionally and there's no clutter. A lot of my times, my clients are shocked by how much more refined their space can look by removing objects rather than adding them. So when you feature only things that you find beautiful and meaningful, you create a space that's not only personal to you, but it's the most luxurious expression of your aesthetic. So that is how we start with functional organizing and we move into that aesthetic beauty. So those are my 5 organizing mindset shifts. So you're not disorganized. You just need a mindset shift. Remember, it's a skill. It's not a personality trait, which means you can learn it. It makes your life easier. It's actually not more work to be organized. It's a daily habit. It's not a one-time project, so that makes it way less overwhelming. It's for everyone. It's not just mom's job. And we think about function first, and then we add the design on top. Organizing is not design with containers. So I've thrown a lot at you. If you feel overwhelmed, please know that's normal. Don't feel like you need to get up tomorrow and start implementing a whole new system. I want you to figure out what feels accessible and useful to you and use that to inform a new approach to your routine. So that's it.
Thank you, Lucy. That was very inspiring, I must say, and I'm going to take some of those ideas to heart as I look around my home for sure. If you joined late, I wanted to mention that we'll have a special offer from Lucy and a special offer from Trustworthy at the end of this webinar. So if you're interested in those, please stick around. At this point, we wanted to stop and see if there's any questions from the audience.
There's no questions, Don, from the audience, but I've got one for Lucy. Oh, one just came in. I'll start with that. Susan asks, Lucy, what recommendations do you have for photo organization, both digital and hard copies?
So for photos, I will tell you that there are organizers who specialize in entirely photo organizing. So if you've got a really big project, I would contact the Association of Photo Managers. But if you're approaching it from a DIY method, first of all, get rid of anything that doesn't have people in it and is a bad photo. Off the top, that just decreases your collection. And then I recommend digital storage unless you like having albums in your home or framed photos in your home. Just a shoebox of photos is not giving you a lived experience of being with your memories. Digitization is helpful, and there's a lot of platforms out there. I always say go with what feels the most intuitive to you and is part of the system you already use. So if you're an Apple person, iCloud Photos is great.
Thanks. The next question, can we get access to recordings of these sessions? I think the answer to that's yes. Don, you'll be circulating these to attendees?
Yes, I'll be circulating the recording to attendees. It'll also be on our YouTube channel, and we have a special page on our site where we have recordings of all of our webinars. It is trustworthy.com/events.
Okay, sounds good. Anna, who asked that question, is also asking about past webinars.
Those are on that Those are also on the YouTube channel and on trustworthy.com/events.
Perfect. Perfect. One other question. This one's from me. So Lucy, let's say that I'm going to engage with you. You're going to come to my mansion to organize. Is there anything pre-work that I should do before you arrive?
The pre-work I ask my clients to do is really think about the vision that they have for what they want their space to look and feel like. When my team arrives, we're going to go through everything, because it's only by getting really granular that we really create a complete inventory and we can really organize everything. So I tell my clients, really get clear on your vision, because when the going gets tough and we have to make hard decisions, keeping your vision in mind really helps you understand the trade-off that you're making on each decision that you make. And also, if there's anything that you already know you don't want anymore, go ahead and get rid of that. And then that saves us some time.
Okay. Thanks, Lucy. No other questions so far, but I'll let you know if new ones come in.
Okay, we'll stop again later on and see if there's some other questions that have come in. One of the things I want to mention, Lucy, about I wanted to piggyback on one thing you said about digitizing photos. You may find that if you have kids, your kids are not interested in a large pile of photo albums or shoeboxes full of photos. But so if you want those photos to outlast you, you might want to consider digitizing those and being able to share those more across many members of your family that way.
Absolutely agreed.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to talk about, as you get organized, Trustworthy can be a big part of your solution too. And Lucy did talk about Trustworthy and how she helps people get organized on Trustworthy. If you're not yet a Trustworthy member, you can try it for free for as long as you'd like. If you've already signed up but you haven't explored it much, I would encourage you to take a closer look to see how much Trustworthy can help you get organized. I'm going to spend a few minutes diving into sort of the idea of why Trustworthy. We also have these monthly how-to webinars that will help you get into Trustworthy a little deeper. The next one will be in mid-May, and you can find the recordings of previous how-to webinars on our website, as I mentioned, and on our YouTube channel. Lucy talked about physical disorganization, but a lot of families are also struggling to manage an overwhelming amount of documents, and that's where Trustworthy can really come in. Many households, that information is all over the place. It's in boxes, it's in filing cabinets, it's an email message somewhere in your inbox, but you're not sure exactly how to find it. And it's really difficult sometimes to locate that one thing you need right when you need it. Where do you keep this information so you can access it easily? How do you share it when you need to? And how do you keep it safe? Email's not secure. You can lose documents. You could have a fire and lose a lot of information. All this is where Trustworthy comes in. We've built a smart, collaborative space where families can organize everything, automate that organization, and really be ready for life's big moments, whatever those might be. And as well as have an important tool to use for day-to-day use. So Trustworthy keeps families' information protected and private in an intuitive platform that's designed to save time, money, and mental energy. So a lot of people have do-it-yourself systems. And maybe you've already developed one yourself. What we've seen is that those kinds of systems consistently fall short. They lack the best-in-class security features that underpin everything that we do at Trustworthy, for example. Having to invent a DIY system from scratch is overly complicated too. And it's easy to forget information that ought to be in there, some important information. And a DIY system might work great for you. You might find it really easy to access and find what you need all the time. But maybe your spouse doesn't know how to find her way around or his way around in it. What would happen if something happened to you? Would they be lost? With Trustworthy's family operating system, you get essentially the opposite of a DIY system. You get that best-in-class bank-level security to protect your information. That security includes tokenization, which is the next-level technique that none of our competitors offer, for example. Tokenization is the process of replacing sensitive data with a placeholder called a token, and those tokens ensure that the actual data is safely stored separately from the Trustworthy member's account, so their information stays hidden and secure at all times. And then with Trustworthy, it's super easy to get started because you can scan your documents with our mobile app or transfer documents directly from your email inbox. Our tools can even pull documents out of your email automatically if that's what you wish. And our autopilot tool automatically extracts your documents' important information and puts it in an easy to access format. It's also really simple to share information securely with family members and professionals, whether you just need to send information to your financial advisor or you're scrambling to find insurance details during a family medical emergency. You have full control over who sees what and for how long, ranging from full access to a single document. You can also set up legacy access to ensure your loved ones can get into your account if something should happen to you. Trustworthy also features automated reminders so you won't ever forget to renew your passport, your car license, or an important bill, which could cost you money if you did forget. And it's really easy to access all of your information no matter where you are, thanks to our Android and iOS apps. And we're supported by dozens of trustworthy certified experts, including Lucy, who help make it even easier to get organized. Lucy and other experts can guide you step by step to set up your family operating system. You might want to partner with one of them if you feel overwhelmed by the process of getting your important information organized. Or if you'd like someone to personally walk you through Trustworthy's platform, they can help you with that. Or they can do it for you, as Lucy said she can do. Or if you don't know where to start and you want a judgment-free guide to help you move forward, that's a place to go. I'm going to stop again now to see if there are any questions. Kyle, do you want to check on that?
Yeah, we've got one here. Let's see. This is about concerns about consolidating private information due to security. This is what they go on to say. This is especially true for those less familiar with technology. Lucy, how have you communicated the security of our solution to address these concerns?
I always say when someone brings up a concern about something, I ask them compared to what? What other options are in the marketplace and what are you using right now? If you're using Google Drive or Apple iCloud, it is not as secure as using Trustworthy. Your information's already consolidated. It's just how secure is it? And if your information is all in paper, it's also not necessarily as secure as it would be in Trustworthy, and it's definitely consolidated. If there's a fire, if, God forbid, there's a flood or anything else happens to your home, your information is totally gone. So I always ask people to think carefully about security, but also compare it to what your other options are and make a realistic decision that's right for you.
Yeah, like I mentioned, tokenization. Google doesn't have tokenization. That's a level of security that you're not going to get anywhere else, right?
Here's another question from Catherine. She says, places need original documents. Say one has a fire. Are uploaded documents considered originals?
That's really going to depend on the document. So you're not going to be able to fly by showing somebody a picture of your passport, but that could help you replace your passport more easily. Say you've lost your passport on vacation. It's going to make it a lot easier if you have that copy.
This is where getting specific about each individual piece of information is helpful, because if you look at it as a group, you're going to scare yourself. You're going to go, oh my God, I can't do anything. Look at each individual piece. So your car title, you need that piece of paper. Your mortgage, you probably need that in original copy, but there are a lot of things you do not need in a hard copy. So take it piece by piece. And if you're concerned, ask an expert.
Yeah. For example, your insurance card. If you have to go to the doctor, say you go someplace where you've never gone, say you go to a hospital and you need emergency coverage and you don't need your insurance card, you can call it up on the electronic version and show them that information. One of our members was in a bar, and even though he's well over 21, they wanted to card him, and he didn't have his license on him, so they wouldn't sell him a beer. But he was able to show his license, which he had on Trustworthy, and they got his beer.
Priorities.
Yes.
One other question, how do you change a document location once scanned in? I can answer this. Within Trustworthy, if you're moving it on the same page, you can drag and drop. If you're moving it from, let's say you put something into a mortgage, but you wanted to put it into a property, we don't have a great mechanism to move that into the other location. So what I would do is download it, and then you can browse to the other location inside Trustworthy, then upload it. That being said, we are working on a mechanism to allow you to move stuff more easily from location to location within Trustworthy.
What I love about Trustworthy is that you don't have to create the architecture and you don't have to remember where everything is. Everything is interconnected in a really intuitive way. So if you're looking for a particular document, you can kind of come at it from many different routes. You can come at, say, a car title. You could come at it through your property, through the car entry. You can come at it through insurance, which will lead you to car insurance, which will lead you to the car, which will lead you to the car title. There's so many ways to find information. So it's much easier to track down the stuff you really need.
Yeah, the search function is really powerful. Before I joined Trustworthy, I needed to find my birth certificate one day, and I knew I had it. I wasn't sure which room it was in to start with, and then once I kind of figure out what room it was in. I wasn't sure what box it was in, and it was a pretty big box. So it took me a while even to find it once I got to the right box. So instead of spending an hour and a half trying to track it down, I could have found it in 15 seconds. Is that the end of the questions, Kyle?
Yeah, that was the last one.
Okay. It looks like there's
Oh.
one more that just came in.
This is a good question because I have I don't have the best answer right now, but I've got a better answer coming soon. How do you change some of the data entered from autopilot? So one of the things that Trustworthy does that Don had hinted at is when you upload a document to Trustworthy, we analyze it and we're going to extract some data from that. It could be all sorts of different data, from the policy number to a deductible to a premium on an insurance policy. Sometimes the AI gets that part wrong. As of today, there's no way to edit that information there. However, I just am in the middle of testing a new feature that our dev team is working on that'll allow you to edit that information. So if you don't see that this week, you'll see it next week, and you'll see a release announcement from us about that.
Okay. Before we sign off, we'll double check that there aren't any last minute questions, but I'm going to move on for now. So first, I wanted to talk about these 2 limited time offers that we have available to anybody who joined our webinar today. There's one from Trustworthy. If you are on a free account, you can upgrade to a paid subscription by using this discount code that you see on the screen here on the left. So Lucy's company, LMW Edits, offers a free 30-minute phone consultation. That's usually going to cost you $59. But if you mention the Trustworthy webinar when you contact her, you will get that for free. And you can either reach her by this URL in the bottom center of the screen here, or you can also reach Lucy via our Work with an Expert page, which you can find that link at the bottom of every page on Trustworthy. A lot of our other experts are listed there as well. Finally, we wanted to take a minute to thank Lucy for her time today and thank all of you for attending today's webinar. And I'm going to take a pause so you can take on that last question there, Kyle.
Yeah, this is a good, obviously someone's deep in the weeds with Trustworthy. This is an excellent question around when you're scanning documents into Trustworthy. Let's say you have a mortgage document, and then you have a closing disclosure, and then you have a vehicle title document. If you scan those all at once, Trustworthy is going to think they're one document. That's how it works right now. So do sort of scan them as logical things as you upload them. So scan the mortgage first, then the closing disclosure, then the title document as separate files to upload them. We are talking to our data science team about whether or not we can parse through that and break them out once they land in Trustworthy, because it's definitely a lot easier to just take a stack of 100 pieces of paper and scan those all through and let Trustworthy sort it out. So as we sort of get deeper into allowing AI to help you with your data, I would expect that to be a feature that comes soon. But for now, I would say scan them as separate documents and get them into Trustworthy that way. It's a great question, though.
Okay, great. And anyways, thanks again, Lucy. Thanks again, Kyle. And thanks again for everybody who came today. And I don't know, we have time for that last question.
Can those individual docs be uploaded to a folder? It depends on what we're talking about here. So within Trustworthy, you can create custom folders on any page, essentially. So let's say you're looking in the property category in a real estate tile, and you're looking at a tile that represents a home. You can create a folder on there that could be closing docs, and you could bulk upload. You could drag and drop 10, 20, 30 files into that folder all at once if you want. You can actually drag a folder from your machine into there as well. What it's not going to do, though, is retain the folder name that you uploaded. It's going to just grab the individual files within that folder to upload them. So if you had a really complex nested folder structure that was really well organized that you loved, and you uploaded into Trustworthy, it's not going to keep your folder structure. It's going to blow it out and just grab all the individual files. It's still an efficient way to bulk grab files and send them into Trustworthy, but it's not going to retain your folder structure in there. You have to sort of recreate that within Trustworthy.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah.
And we are going to post a recording of this webinar. As I said, we'll post it on our website at trustworthy.com/events. We'll also be able to find it on our YouTube channel, and we'll also send it out via email to people who joined the webinar today. So anyways, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, and have a great day.